Welcome everyone to our 16th Lake Stewardship Workshop. I'm Jim Irwin, Chair of the Rocky Mountain Biosphere Reserve. I'll be hosting tonight's workshop, and Dennis Hodgson, Daryl Kynes will be assisting. To begin, I would like to acknowledge that the Rocky Mountain Biosphere Reserve is in Treaty 2 and 4 territories of the Anishinaabe people, and say that we respect and share their all-important teachings that water is a sacred gift and essential for all life. Since 1986, Rocky Mountain Biosphere Reserve has been bringing people together to share their knowledge for the well-being of our communities. In this respect, we're pleased to have Betty Sawatzky join us in our Lake Stewardship Workshop tonight. This workshop is focused on how our lake groups can raise funds to support their lake protection projects. Betty has been a marketing consultant and reporter for CJRB Radio and Discover Westman Online for the past 6 years. Her marketing skills began in 2009 through working with the Cadet Canada program. With training in public affairs through the Department of National Defense, she worked with bringing more attention to the Cadet program in the Brandon and CFB Shiloh area through all sources of media. As a second lieutenant, she was deployed to Whitehorse for 2 summers, 2012 and 2013, and worked together with CBC Radio and local media to further promote the Cadet program in that area. Betty is currently chair of the Killarney Lake Action Committee and was head of the fundraising for the Aeration project in 2018. Marketing the Aeration project through a variety of methods, the necessary $86,000 was raised in approximately 3 months. Tonight in her presentation entitled Project Marketing 101, Betty will share some of these marketing strategies, which we hope will inspire you and help your lake group raise funds for your projects. Betty?
So basically, yeah, you heard a little bit about where I come to the whole marketing strategy, and it did start with the Cadet program. Just a little bit of backstory on that is that when when my daughter joined the Cadets back in 2010, then they needed some help in the admin office. And so I was a volunteer for about a year. And then the commanding officer said, well, since you're spending, kind of every Wednesday here, why not get paid for it? So he signed me up and I was part of the reserves. I joined. All of a sudden one weekend he says, or one Friday, he says to me, you're going this weekend to 17 Wing in Winnipeg for a week. It was in the summertime and it worked out for a week of training of public affairs. Well, I really didn't know what public affairs was. But after the end of that week, I certainly did. And what I learned from that is that the way to market any project is to tell the story. And that is what we were taught through the Cadet program. So when I started with cadets, I was with the Army Cadets in Brandon, and there was about 13, 14 kids who were part of the program at that time. That would have been in September, October. Well, by the end of the next year, we had grown our core of Army Cadets in Brandon to over 100 kids. And how did we do that? By sharing the story. And so that's where I guess I come into this. I use the same concepts to share the story of our aeration project to help the community and help get funding and the milestones along the way. And so that's where this all comes from. And it's kind of using all the same concepts to share the story. And how do you do that well? So that's where we are. I'm going to now go to a share screen, go to a PowerPoint presentation, and I'll kind of walk you through it. I'll try not to talk too fast. I tend to do that is talk too fast and just motor along, but I'll try to pace myself. So here we go. We're going to share the screen. So I've called this Project Marketing 101. It's kind of tongue in cheek because I guess I am trained in public affairs with the Cadet program, but I took it basically a step further and then joined the CJRB Newsroom and marketing team CGRB Discover Westman. It's got to be about 6 years ago by now. So that again is where I'm coming at this, is through those eyes. So yeah, like I say, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, project marketing 101. It's how to share your story and how to get other people on board to help support that financially, volunteer-wise, everything that goes with it. So how to market your project to your community, your stakeholders, potential sponsors, granting organizations, and more. Now, some of this is, you probably know all of this, but it's just kind of a good review. Maybe I might stir up some ideas that you haven't thought of before. And that's kind of what this is all about, is to revisit some of those things and to drum up, to get those creative juices flowing. That's what basically this is about. So who is your community? Your community are the families who live in your area, lakeside residents who maybe live there all year round or come and spend their entire summer there. Your outdoor enthusiasts, those who love boating and fishing, and those who are out walking and water sports, all those kinds of folks who love the outdoors and like to come and visit your lake. Your local school system is important. That's part of your community. So that is your families, and how to link your school system, your teachers, your students, your principal into what you're doing, because we are all connected. And in our case, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but our students, we always had swimming lessons here in Killarney Lake. But when our algal blooms got so bad and toxic to the point where our beach shut down, we lost our swimming lessons for our kids to Wawanesa, who had a pool. So this is where it affected our school system in the sense that our swimming instruction, it had to be relocated because of the condition of our lake. Local businesses, that's your community. Local town municipal council. Everybody works together in partnership to make your community work and work well together. Who are your stakeholders? Council members are your stakeholders. They carry the burden of success of the community on their shoulders. And they are keenly interested in what is working in that community and what's not working in their community, what's driving people to come and what's driving people away. So definitely council members, local businesses. I'll say, go back to council members. On our Killarney Lake Action Committee, we've always had 2 council members as committee members. And they did this as being that liaison between our committee and council, town council, but also because they were keenly interested in what was going on with the lake, and they did want to chase the solutions like we did as well. So we have always been very connected with our council due to 2 members who are on council. Local businesses, they're your stakeholders as well. They have a vested interest in what's going on with your lake and what's happening and what's not happening. If again, because of weeds or algae and all those things are chasing folks away, their businesses are suffering for it. And especially during the summer months when we're supposed to be drawing tourists to our areas and not chasing them away because of all the yucky things that are happening in the lake, right? Local recreation directors, so they are stakeholders as well. Swimming lessons. Like I said, we lost ours for years to Wawanesa. Last 2 summers, we did not have our beach closed down because our aeration system is working. We're really excited, being our 3rd year now of a full summer of fully operating aeration field. And so, yeah, we're excited to see what's going to happen this summer. Who else are your stakeholders? Local or neighboring campgrounds. We have 3 campgrounds in the Killarney, like surrounding Killarney Lake. One of them is owned by the Kinsmen. A second one is owned by the Egg Society, and the third one is owned from a private person. And all 3 of them, by the middle of summer, by August 1st, The blooms were so bad in our lake that half of our campgrounds basically emptied out, half. So all these 3 campgrounds, they saw loss of funds. They saw people leaving town, and it was depressing. It was the whole community was sad with this whole problem. And there was a lot of study that went into our lake. But what we did, we needed a group of people to roll up their sleeves and actually delve in and try to turn this around for the betterment of the entire community. So yeah, definitely our campgrounds, they're our stakeholders because they have a vested interest as well. Local Manitoba Wildlife Federation Association Committee. We have a local committee that's affiliated with the Manitoba Wildlife Federation. And so what's going on in the lake, they have a vested interest in that too. They're interested in the fish populations. They're interested in which species are maybe the predators and which one's taking over. What, in our case, what new species have kind of shown themselves for whatever reason. They've actually swam up shore, like the carp, which don't belong, but they're here. Or like the bluegill, which we're feeling somebody has thought this was a good idea and introduced bluegill into our lake. In the meantime, what we have found is now a significant depletion of minnows, and the bluegill are kind of taking over, and that is not good. This is not a good thing. So so these are things that our Manitoba Wildlife Association of Killarney, they have a vested interest in as well. So again, we're all working at this together for the betterment of the community as a whole. Who are your potential sponsors? Well, your local businesses, large and small. Again, they have skin in the game. They are wanting your project to work because it will benefit them in the long run. Your local campgrounds or the neighboring campgrounds, motels, anybody who has who wants to draw people to town. Your local Kinsman Club, they are a great sponsor. They want to see the community thrive. Again, the local wildlife club, larger industry. So we tapped into High Life, Patterson Grain, and we went there formally with a letter of request asking for their donation, and they did. These are potential sponsors. So basically, think out of the box. We even had gotten, it was really neat. We had a group of gals out of our local insurance office, and they pooled their efforts together, and they gave us a donation of $500 from just pooling their own efforts together. It was fantastic. So it just, everything started to come together, and we got the community excited about this aeration project again, to turn it around and to delve in and try to come back from the damage that the algal blooms had done. Granting organizations. This is, of course, very important to help pay for the project. So your local foundation, definitely they're a go-to. Manitoba Fish and Wildlife Enhancement Fund, all of you I know are very familiar with that. Brandon Area Community Foundation, if you go to bacf.ca, they are very, very much wanting to help communities, and that is, they have a large reach. It is Brandon area. It is not just Brandon. And I know they have helped, like Minnedosa, I know they helped with some of the funding there, but they are wanting to give out grants. And if you're interested at all in tapping into the BACF, call them, talk to Laura Kempthorne, call her, explain what you're looking at, and she will walk you through. And she'll walk you through how to do the application, but also how to present it in such a way that you've crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's, everything is there, so that when the board looks at it, that they will know exactly what you're looking at and how to help you. So there's so many things out there, ways to get help. The SIL Foundation, we didn't get that grant, but I know that they certainly help different projects. Federated Co-op's Community Spaces Grant, there's another one through the co-op. So many great things that are coming together. COVID, of course, has really fleshed out a lot of these different granting opportunities. And so that is definitely something to tap into. Get as many out there as you can, and you might just win some over. But yeah, be prepared with your plan and your numbers, get them in place, and don't be afraid to phone them and ask them for some direction if you're not sure. And there's more. Who are the regular visitors to your lake area? Who are those who were part of your seasonal community, but they left because of the conditions? How do you bring them back? What can you do? And then there's also the newcomers. So COVID has encouraged so many of us to stay within our provincial boundaries. And honestly, do we really want to venture out when we see what's happening in the provinces, on either side of us, really? So use this to your advantage. Folks are looking for new experiences, and your lake and your area, because it's not just the lake, it's your businesses, your area, it's your community, can all draw more folks in, that you could be their next favorite place to come to every summer. And so that's what this is about, is how do we do this? How do we bring this all together? So here's the thing. How do you reach them? Start with your own community. So what we did is we held a community forum. Now, that was before COVID and all the restrictions and all of the problems that came with that. At the time, what we did is we basically put it in the newspaper. We put it out there, posters all around Killarney town, same with Ninette, anything that was close by, and basically invited everybody to come out. We had the Shamrock Center, the big hall there, and we had already started working with Trevor McGuire with the Pelican Lake Committee, and Trevor had offered to do a presentation to the community of Killarney. And so he did a presentation with slides before and after their lake, what it looks like. And then Rick Corman, who was the chair at the time, he explained the problem, what's happening, what's going on, why are we having such a problem, and more of the science behind it, some of the things that he has tried or the committee has tried in the past, like weed harvesting or algae harvesting, all those kinds of things. And then my husband Clarence, he did a presentation of what we're looking at, what's the plan. And it was, we have 10 lines in a fan shape, and we've got about 6 heads on each line. And what does this look like, and why we're doing it that way. And so that was that. And then I got up and did the fundraising presentation of how we're trying to raise the money and how much we were trying to raise. So we had a goal of about $86,000. We thought we could do this with $86,000, buying air compressors, the bubbler heads, we would make them ourselves with Trevor and his team out of Pelican Lake. And all together, all of those things would cost about $86,000. Well, it took us maybe 3 months to raise that money. And it was not through the significant grants, because we had an article by the Brandon Sun that was a little bit one-sided, and it really tainted our chance to get the grants. But our community stepped forward, and boy, nobody's looked back. We've just plowed through, and it's been fantastic. So back to my page here, host a community forum if you can. If you have to do it outside, do it outside. Explain the problem and its effect on the community with visual presentation if possible. Share the options. Share what is possible and share the not so possible. One option that we had here at Killarney was to dredge the lake of the goop at the bottom. Well, that was not a possibility because simply the cost alone was thousands of dollars. And so that is just nothing we could do. But what was possible? In our case, an aeration project was possible. So explain your plan and why. Why is it a good plan for you? Cost effective, location, all those different things. Have props if possible. We had a working micro bubbler head on hand. We had an air compressor hooked up the line. The bubbler was working, shooting the water. And so folks could come and ask questions, and they could actually see what we were looking at to build. At the end of the community forum was a question and answer period, and there were lots of folks who were asking questions. It was very good. At the same community forum, be prepared with a receipt book for those who want to donate immediately. I did not expect this. I did have one with me, just thought, well, who knows, right? wow, we had a lineup, and it was fabulous. The community really got on board, and it was simply because here was a group of people who were passionate about this problem like they were, but we were willing to roll up our sleeves and work at it and delve in hard. Make sure everybody goes home with a brochure. I'll be talking about a brochure as we go along. That is definitely important. So again, what's shared at the forum, at the info session, they can go home and now they can read about it too. Contact information, again, the dollar that you're trying to raise, what's your goal, all of those things are in a neat little brochure with all of those questions answered kind of right there. How do you reach them? Share your story. This is what I was saying about in the very beginning with the cadet program. How do we get families to have their children join the cadet program and make it fun? Share the story. What were we doing? That's what we had to do. So when we would go and spend time out camping at Spruce Woods, I took pictures and told the story. And before we knew it, we just kept on telling the story and sharing it with all the media of the area, and they shared it. It was fabulous, and we had a lot of fun with it. So how do you share your story? Email a news release to share your story to your local radio stations. So I work with CJRB Radio, and we welcome community stories from across Westman. We love to share stories about how communities are helping their own projects, helping each other. Again, like a story where a community like Pelican Lake is helping another group like Sandy Lake, that's fabulous. We love to share stories like that. And it just inspires other communities to get behind other communities. We all work together because we all have more or less the same problem, don't we? If it's not the blooms, it's the weeds, it's a prairie lake. You know, those are all things that we know this story very well, but we can help each other. So also, yeah, share with your local radio stations, online news sites. I'll get into this a little bit more. Your local newspapers, they want to share your story. So again, send out a news release to them, your contact information, what's your goal, what's the problem, what's the story, and how they can help. Share through social media platforms. So like Facebook is one of them. So include who, what, when, where, and why, and don't forget the pictures. So when I look at local radio stations, of course, I'll talk about CJRB. That's mine that I sell. I work with Golden West. We have 45 radio stations across the province, or across the prairies, sorry. But there are others. And so I've put them here. CKDM out of Dauphin, if that's an area that's close to you, definitely tap into them. Our local Brandon stations, again, send out a news release, send out information to them, and contact information of who to talk to should they want an interview. The Voice of Verdun, CJ103, those people, those businesses, that paper, that radio station in Verdun, if you are in that surrounding area, by all means, contact them, because they have a vested interest in what you're doing, because they know they can tap into the folks that are coming from other areas of the province to the western side of the province. Just a little plug here for CJRB. You can see that Boissevain is where we broadcast out of, but we cover a large area, and even going into Saskatchewan. So when the borders open in the States, we also go into the States as well. So we have a large broadcasting area, cover all of Westman and beyond those borders. So just a kind of a plug for CJRB there. And then the other one, of course, under Golden West Radio is the Portage La Prairie. We have 3 stations out of there. So this is CJRB's, but Seafry might be a station that you might recognize. And you can see the area that Seafry covers as well. So it's, again, a huge area, and tap into Seafry and Country 93, Mix 96 are also out of Portage Prairie. Their area isn't so large, but Seafry covers a huge area on the AM dial. Local online portals. So with CJRB is Discover Westman. Discover Westman is the online news site where you have the greater bulk of the story. So In this example, the first phase of Killarney Lake Aeration project complete. So this, again, pictures, the story, the milestones, how to volunteer. So a lot of those details we can include in a story. So again, through an interview, the interview on the radio is more of a snapshot of what you're doing. But online, on the bulk of the news story, we can share more of those details. Like I have listed here, we can share the contact info, we can share ways to volunteer, we can share ways to donate, ways to find out more. Share your significant milestones. Every time you reach a significant milestone, send out a brand new news release. Keep that momentum going. And that way, your media outlets, they will be keen to watch for you. It's a way to just keep things going, and it really works. It really does. So don't forget, when something happens significantly, do share it through a news media, through email, and you need to go on to those different websites of your media outlets to find that email address. So and share your fundraising events. There's different ways of sharing fundraising events as well. Portage Online is, oh, I think I'm gonna go back one. No, is the Portage online news site. Again, if something like CFRI is a station that you can tap into, Portage Online is the rest of the story where you can share the bulk of your story. Your local neighboring and Westman area newspapers. So I can't say enough about the Killarney Guide. They were fabulous to support the different stages and steps that we did with our aeration project. They were wonderful. And that's the thing, is that there are so many who still love that holding a newspaper in their hands. And you can use pictures and quotes and that kind of thing. So your local newspaper is a really good way to share your story. I realized through COVID, there were a number of local newspapers who had to close. Souris, I think Melita might have been one of them. So there's a few out there on the western side. And the Boys of Maine Recorder really stepped up to the plate. So they too are kind of picking up those stories of those areas. So tap into those newspapers that they are looking for content, and they love sharing community interest stories. The Empire Advance, I believe, is the Verdon one. And so then too, if you're in that area, tap into them. The Brandon Sun, they are definitely focused on Brandon, but they are definitely wanting to get more and more into the different corners of Southwest Manitoba. So again, to a news release, share your information, your goals, what you're looking at, and why. And you will have a reporter contact you. That is for sure. So there's lots of different ways. Something I wanted to bring in here is, again, working together with Trevor out of Pelican Lake and his team. We really realized, I think really significantly, at least I did, is that the neighboring towns are your stakeholders. They have a vested interest in what you're doing. So in this case, Discover Westman and the Killarney Guide, we share stories about what's happening in Pelican Lake, because we know those folks who are visiting Pelican Lake for ice fishing or summer fishing, summer recreation, they often come over to Killarney for their shopping. If they need a dentist, if they need an eye doctor, they come to Killarney. So that lake is very important. It's only 15 minutes away. And those folks, we want to help promote Pelican Lake because we know Killarney benefits from those folks as well. So again, we like to share their story as a Killarney community. We like to share what's happening in Ninette. So social media platforms. Social media, share details of your project. Again, your contact information, ways to volunteer, ways to donate, milestones. Basically, I'm saying the same thing over again. Again, including lots of pictures of what's happening. Facebook is a favorite social media platform, and it's free. Use Facebook effectively to widen the spread of your story and keep your interest alive. Keep at it, keep adding, and just share as much as you can to keep it going. That momentum is important to continue. So how do you do that? What would you post on your Facebook page or your social media platform? So copy links of articles onto your Facebook page. So anything that, like, let's say that we would write about on Discover Westman, about the Minnedosa Lake and the fundraising they're doing for their wheat harvester. Brian should take that story, that link, and he should post it on their Facebook page so that people can read that others are interested as well. And that's, again, how you piggyback off of another person's interest. So the more that are interested, the more you're going to get more people interested. It works. It's a domino effect. Post pictures of activities on or near your lake. So recreation, is there a beautiful evening and folks are out kayaking? Take the shot. Volunteer work, is there a grade 5 class who's helping to clean up garbage around the lakeside? Take the picture, share it. Are there trouble spots? Yes, those are things that, yeah, we don't like to share what's wrong with our lakes, but at the same time, you're being transparent and very real with your audience, and that helps to explain why you're doing what you're doing. But also your accomplishments, like what are your milestones? What is it that that you're doing to help? If you're putting in a new dock, by all means, take the picture, share the information, and put it up on your Facebook page. Remember who your audience is. You're trying to market your lake and your project, so stay positive. And be careful as a committee as a whole. This is very, very important. As a committee as a whole, it's like you need to all be singing the same song, and that song needs to be positive. If there is any one member who is kind of poo-pooing the idea to the community or to other committees or groups or businesses, that can be detrimental to your project. So really try to have a team that you're all working together and you're all sharing the same story and the same positives. This is crucial. This is crucial. It's all part of marketing, is to be on the same team and to be proactive in being positive about your story. That's basically it. Share your information in layman's language. If it's too technical, your audience, you're going to lose them. They'll lose interest because they won't understand it. When I first heard the word eutrophication, it was like whoosh, over my head too. And I had to really okay, explain this to me again. And I didn't get it because I wasn't involved as much as others. I came on, my husband and I came on in 2018 when we started this whole thing. But I needed to learn. So when you're doing a brochure or a presentation or anything like that, or talking to the media and sharing your story, make sure you speak in a language that others can understand, because if they can't, they're going to lose interest. Watch for naysayers. This one, okay, so there was one thing I was going to try and do and not embarrass myself, something terrible in this presentation, but I will do this. So there are always naysayers. So be on top of the negative comments. I'm going to read, I wrote this out just in case. Be on top of Facebook comments that aren't helpful for any social media, really. Address them. You show more integrity by thanking folks for their comments instead of arguing with them on a public format. So some of you might remember the Andy Griffith Show, and there was a character on there named Gomer Pyle. And one of Gomer Pyle's expressions, he had all kinds of funny expressions. One of them was this. He says, well, tie me to the side of a pig and roll me in the mud. Well, my take on that is, if you choose to wrestle with a pig in the mud, there comes a point when you realize that he enjoys it. And it might be too late, because you've wrangled with somebody who's loving to get you mad. And that person often talks, and it wouldn't reflect well on you or on your committee or on your project. So remember, you are trying to market your project and your committee and yourself, that you have integrity. But if you're going to get mad and lose it, and it's just not going to reflect well on what you're trying to accomplish. Lastly on this page is your share your fundraising goal. Sorry, I think, yeah. Share your fundraising goal and any new sponsors and grants on your social media page. So if you've got a new grant, by all means share it. You've got a new sponsor who's come on board, by all means share it. If you've got a picture that shows somebody of your committee accepting a gigantic check, by all means take the picture and share it. That again helps to build momentum for what you're trying to accomplish. Okay, so what we did right from the get-go, we got this ready for our community forum. We printed this out. This is our little brochure. In this brochure, we shared the problem, we shared the plan, we shared our goals, and we also remembered who our audience was. We wrote it in a way that folks could easily understand it. So I'm going to now this is the front of it, but I'm going to open it up for you. So here's a picture of eutrophication. Here's an explanation of what the problem is. And this was a group effort. As a committee, we sat down and worked through this because there were those who were very well versed in this and some who were not. I was not as well versed as someone like Rick Corman. So what's the problem? How can folks understand it? What's the plan? What is it that we want to do? So it explained about the compressor shed, explained about the lines, the bubbler heads. It also explained who is the Killarney Lake Action Committee? Who are we? What is it that we're trying to accomplish? So again, it was just to explain a little bit more of who we are and what we're about. And then in the back, it was how can you show your support? And so it was definitely about raising awareness, about donating, how to do that. Consider joining the committee for those who want to see a difference, but also want to make a difference. And then at the very, very back was how can you help? And that was actually educating the community on things that they were doing that they may not realize that is detrimental to the lake. So include ways your community can help. Educate your community by listing residential habits that negatively affect your lake. Now, in the back, there was quite a list, and you can go back to that later. But here are just a few. So lawn care, fertilizer treatments. People don't realize that there's so many nutrients in the lake water. This is what we do. We actually just pump it on through our sprinkler system, and we have beautiful grass. We don't need to go and buy fertilizer. And it's not good for our lake anyways, because it runs into the lake whenever there's a rain or any of that. Lawn care, disposal of grass clippings. This is something that we know some folks are doing to Killarney Lake because we see it. We see the grass clippings in the water. And people just do not realize what they're doing. Weed harvesting. Are people cutting and cleaning up the weeds and taking them out of the lake? Or are they cutting and decomposing, letting them decompose on the bottom of the lake? Planting trees, shrubs on the lake edge to slow erosion. Ask for help from your community. How can people help? Not everybody wants to join a committee, but people do like to get on board to help with installation, signage, fundraising efforts, things like that. And of course, include how can you donate. Those little slips of papers were on every brochure. So fundraising strategies, we broke it down so that different people of every budget could participate. Bubbler heads, we did a $200 a head. Folks could sponsor micro bubbler head for $200. And then you can see that we broke it into larger amounts of money for sponsors. Everybody's name who sponsored any part of this project was part of the signage, and those signs were at the boat launch and at the beach. Again, we partnered with the Killarney Turtle Mountain municipality for tax deductible receipts. So now that you have your brochure, what do you do with it? Well, we left them at local businesses on the counters. We asked if we could do this near the cash register. We included them with every donation letter request to the businesses. We included them with every grant application. We gave them out to every participant at all of our fundraising events. We handed them out to everyone who joined the community forum, who came. Thank you letters for those who donated. We would try to remember to send a brochure as well, attached to bulletin boards in the area, and look for local meeting areas. We have a little strip mall here in Killarney, and so we left a bunch there as well. Visit bigger businesses for larger donations. Come prepared with a request letter in hand and details of your project. Be prepared to sit down and talk to managers about your project right then and there. Bring extra brochures to share with your staff. Again, remember to be positive because you are trying to sell your product. Live and online auctions have really taken off since COVID. So seek donated prizes from local and keenly interested business owners. So Wolverine Supplies, they are near Verdun. They're an outdoors kind of a store. Joe Brooks Outdoors, Brandon, local hardware stores, local co-op stores, put together a prize package raffle. So some really neat prizes like an evening cruise with a supper for 6, or a couple of kayaks as a package, or a smoker barbecue package. There's all kinds of things. Just think out of the box. And then share your fundraising on events calendars. So Discover Westman, here we have under features, community events. It's free. CGRB Radio, we share free fundraising or free events or different events that are going on. And you just need to basically email us with your information and we can include that on the air. Going forward, sharing ongoing concerns about your lake, such as aquatic invasive species. I know I would like to get more into our schools with the aquatic invasive species. Candace left me some coloring books and things like that, and I'd like to do a presentation to the schools, the different classrooms, about being just more aware of what's happening out there. Basically, I took more time than I expected. Sorry about that, but that's it for me. Is there any questions?
It was very good, Betty. That's maybe closer to 201 than 101.
Yeah. There's no test.
Yeah. Got a question here to start us off with. And first, I would like to thank you. This is coming from one of the people watching tonight. I'd like to thank you, Betty, for assistance to Friends of Sandy Lake in Minnedosa, or Friends of Lake Minnedosa. You gave us several pointers which helped us raise money and contacts. We totally agree that we're unlikely to get much in the way of assistance from governments, either federally or provincially. Can you speak a little bit about any success you've had in the Killarney community to that extent?
Well, basically it was bad timing for us. What happened, how do I say this? What happened is that I had 4 grant applications out there. I know Larry McGuire had tried to get some federal funding for us. He really kind of went to bat for us at one point. I know he kind of, he was trying to get more federal funding for exactly our kind of projects. Didn't get anywhere on that. Provincially, again, the enhancement fund would have been the one, but unfortunately, we had a story that went wrong. And it was something that the Brandon Sun had done, and I can't give fault to the Brandon Sun, but there was a certain gal out of Ontario, and she was trying to sell a book that she had written, and Killarney Lake was part of that. It was studies across Canada of different lakes, and she contacted the Brandon Sun and basically lambasted our lake, and this reporter wrote on this but didn't contact anybody from our town or our committee. And so he wrote this story, and it ended up on the front page of Brandon Sun. Unfortunately, because of that story, all 4 of my grant applications went south. One of them was the enhancement fund, the other was a SIL Foundation, and another was the BACF. I forget who the 4th was, but it was a blow that we did not need, and what she had shared wasn't even true. So we as a committee did contact her, and we did put her on speakerphone, and we asked her to formally retract what she had said. She wouldn't. She got mad instead. So this is unfortunate. It happens, right? Again, this young reporter from the Brandon Sun didn't realize what he had done. I'll tell you after my phone call, he did. He got it, is you need to have a well-balanced story. And it wasn't well balanced at all. So, and what hinged on that, what we lost. So I really can't say, and that's what happened to us, is that we lost those grants. And it was exactly that story. And they all told me that's exactly why we lost it. So this is where we had to go back to the community, and it was the community who just picked up the slack. That's just, I just have to say that it was the community that recognized the need, and it really didn't matter what this gal out of Ontario felt. It was what are we living with, and what can we change ourselves? I don't know if I answered your question.
I think you did, and there was another part to it, and that's, do you think there's any opportunity for us in this Southwest Central Manitoba area to work together to gain a little bit more influence in that part of our communities, the government part in particular, I guess, in terms of their support or understanding of some of the issues we're facing here in these prairie lakes?
What I can say is, I know since, and this is again part and parcel with the different lake groups. So Trevor out of Pelican Lake, us, Dustin Flanagan's working out of the Gauthier Reservoir, Pilot Mound. We have gotten more attention from Manitoba Fisheries, and through Manitoba Fisheries, we're getting our lake stocked with more walleye fry and that kind of thing. And just last fall, Manitoba Fisheries spent 3 days out here doing an assessment of what's going on with our fish population. So, and one reason why we're getting that kind of attention, they tell us, is because we have a committee that's working very hard to clean up our lake and create a safe and healthy habitat for the fish population. So our aeration project has really brought attention, not just the project, but the committee that's pushing hard to do well with it. And the other thing too is that we studied water levels, phosphate levels, fish populations, all those things before aeration, during aeration, and now again the 3rd year of aeration. So we're watching for changes. That's kind of the key to what Trevor's been doing as well, is that he's been documenting the change, and that brings attention to Manitoba Fisheries. And I think that's our provincial in right there, is getting the attention of the fisheries, because they too have a vested interest in what's going on in our lakes. When they give 100,000 or 200,000 walleye or fingerlings, like fry or fingerlings, to any water body, they want to know that it's being taken care of and that there's a good chance of survival rate.
Yeah. When it comes to community awareness, what in your experience seems to be the biggest need?
Community awareness. I guess that depends on what the problem is. Like in our case, it was the algal blooms. In Minnedosa's case, their problem is more of, I guess, the weeds, right, Brian? Community awareness it's basically addressing what is the problem. What is the problem, and how does it affect the community poorly? And again, in our prairie lakes, our businesses flourish during the summer months. They need to. And if those summer months just go south because of the lake conditions, that affects the entire community. It really does. So again, I don't know if I answered your question.
No, I think you did. And I guess another one, apart from the fact that you dealt with a kind of a situation that really helped to stimulate people coming on board, assuming that we don't face a situation like that, then what would be the biggest thing we could do, or what would have the biggest impact in terms of bringing people on board to join a change or a new project, or a project that's going to bring change to our lake?
I think you just need to be clear of what's your goal. What is it that you want the public to know, and why? It's share your story. It's what is it that you want and why, and then all the facets of that, like what goes with that. What are the possible benefits to the community if that change can happen? Again, all the ways of that I kind of mentioned about all the different media platforms and those types of things. But I think you just need you need to be able to present a clear picture of what is your goal, what do you want the public to know, and why. And again, like I said, what are the benefits to the community? If you can sell your project in such a way that the entire community, or those who, that the community sees the benefit of this, that's what you need to do. If you can do that, you've got a winner. And that's a product. You have to sell your product. So what is your product? That's your goal.
In terms of news items and for local papers, do we in the community then, are we best advised to have someone write something or one of us write it and submit it in the hope that that attracts a reporter's interest down the way and they begin to follow our story then? Or how does it work?
Well, yeah. After my experience with the Brandon Sun, I wanted to submit all my own stories. I didn't want them writing anything for me anymore. When I was with the Cadet program, and I was actually an education assistant in a school in Brandon during that same time. So I wasn't working for a media outlet. I was working with the cadets on my off hours. And I wrote everything, I submitted everything. So I would write my article as Second Lieutenant Betty Fraze, that was me. And I emailed them out to, I got to know the editors quite well. And that was the thing too, is if you can connect with, like in the newspapers, the editors, you can talk with them, you get to know them. That's so key, is get to know the people who you are sending these things to. And through that relationship, they were very eager to share the story. It was like the Cadet program at that time, still is one of the best kept secrets of the national defense, right? Is what is the Cadet program? What is it? Well, it started as a way to recruit young people for the military. But where it is now, it's a free youth program. It costs no money to the members who join. But we needed to get that word out. So I would write the article, I would send them out to all of the Westman newspapers, send them to the radio as well. I was more into newspaper at the time, and so, but it was already prepared. So there's that way you can do it, write it yourself, write it well, send it out, give them a phone call, give them a heads up it's coming their way through email, make that connection. Definitely build a relationship with these people. The other one is the news release, like I said. You can write your story in a news release, and what they could do is simply just copy and paste that. It can be that simple, but all your contact information is there. And then at the end of that is ask state if you would like to have an interview with me or another representative. This is who you call, and we can arrange an interview. So make sure that there is no question of who they can talk to.
That was the next question. You talked about the portals and the radio piece. Can you tell us a little more about that? How would we participate that if a community wanted to follow that route or pursue that thread? Yeah.
Now, again, so I'm going to use Discover Westman and CJRB. I can't speak for Q Country. I can't speak for Bob FM. But I would imagine it would be the same way. So basically, so with us, it's cjrb@goldenwest.ca, but you can find that through Google. Go to cjrb or discoverwestman.com and you can make that contact. That contact information is at the bottom of your homepage. Basically, like I said, is to send out the information of what it is that you are trying to accomplish, and what your goal is, what your story is, and your contact information. So it prompts them to call to action. Like it's a call to action on the part of the news, on the that you are doing to the newsroom to give you a shout, give you a call and learn more, and then to share the story. So again, a story that really shares about how community is helping community, like Killarney Lake Committee is helping Sandy Lake Committee, or Pelican Lake Committee, Trevor McGuire is helping Minnedosa, or, you know, those are the things that really brings attention to a project, is when other communities are helping other communities. It really does something. It's a great story to share, but also it's how can we better our lakes, our situations. More and more attention is being brought to our communities and our lakes, simply because of more aeration projects are being installed. COVID is making people want to go and find out more about their own backyard. These are all wonderful. This is a great opportunity to share your story because of the nature of where we are right now, even with COVID. It really is. It's a good time to share your lake, your community.
Yeah, it's popular for families all year long, it seemed, this year, winter included.
Yeah. On our Killarney Lake, we've never seen so many ice fishing shacks. We counted at one point 61 ice fishing shacks. We had a village on our lake, but there were also folks who had made their own makeshift skating rinks and hockey rinks, and they were walking their dogs on skates. They were on skates and they were walking their dogs, and it was so neat to see. There were snowshoers out there, and everybody was out on that lake, and there was a lot of automatic social distancing. There was no worries, right? The arenas were closed, but the lakes were open, and people used it. It was really neat to see. Yeah.
You mentioned Federated Co-op, and I know that they have some funding available. Were you able to acquire some funding through their initiative?
No, and actually that might have been the fourth one that said no because of that story. We were not able to tap into any of the grants. The only one finally was our own Killarney Foundation, who came on board towards the end. But it was interesting because they too got cold feet after that Brandon Sun article. But it was at the end when they saw how the community had come on board so strongly, they finally did give a donation too, which is, I mean, again, they're protecting their assets. I get it, right? I'm not pointing any fingers at anybody. It is amazing though how one story that went awry affected some big dollars. Yeah, it was sad.
I think your community did amazingly well to raise that much money in that short a time, Betty. And how much did you actually have to spend in the end to complete the project in Killarney?
Well, that's actually, yeah, that's amazing. We raised, I believe it was like 85,000 in 3 months, and we spent around the 65,000. So we still have money in the bank. We use those funds for well, any of course ads, when open water, things like that in the Killarney Guide, any extra signage if we have to buy. In the wintertime, we have flashing beacons around our open water area, and sometimes they go missing. So we need to, buy more of those. There is talk that people would love to see us extend that field over to where the golf course is. So the furthest corner that is not getting the benefit of the aeration field yet. Again, this summer we might see a difference, right? But we were going to give it 3 years, 3 full summers before we would even consider extending it or putting up a second field. I know Pelican Lake, they have a second field, and they were even, I think, considering a third. But our lake isn't as long as they. Like, we have a much smaller area, but we're deeper. But the golf course, that's kind of the one. That's the end that we're watching this summer, is to see what are the conditions over there. That's where if we're going to see algal blooms, it'll be at that end. So that money is there if we need it for that. It is there waiting to be used.
So you had an extensive marketing program in the beginning. Are you continuing to execute a marketing program or initiative ongoing?
No, actually not. And part of it was because we were all so exhausted after that. We pushed so hard. And in that, so we pushed, I think it was January, we started the marketing of this. Our community forum was in January. we worked so hard so that by August we were putting in that aeration field, but we had to put it together. Like, so there was volunteers and we had fundraising, and in the summertime, Canada Day, there were more fundraisers going on. Somebody donated a dock from out of Cartwright, and so there was an auction sale for that. And then someone donated concert tickets, and that was going on. So by the time we got the Aeration project in, we were exhausted. We were done. Like, there was only about 10 of us to do this, and we did really well, but we were tired. So, and we all have jobs. Like, some of us were retired, but some of us had full-time jobs. So we didn't need to go pursue any more funding. We didn't need any more. And if, you know, if we would pursue, this would be a next year, if we would do this, to go and extend that field or to put a second field in, then we would assess what are our needs. And we would probably have to do more fundraising, or we would again tap into some of the granting applications like the Brandon Area Community Foundation, things like that. But we won't be looking at that this year. It would be a next year project to see if that's what we want to pursue. Yeah.
Thank you, Betty. That's an uplifting and upbeat presentation on marketing and selling our projects and convincing our community that we're on the right track. I did have another question here too. Who pays for the electricity in the aeration system?
That was taken on by the town council. They agreed. We had a number of sit downs with our town council, and they knew that that would be an ongoing expense. Now I will back up. There was, now if Bruno was on this call, he would remember this. There was one of those column aerators going on. I think it was even Bruno who had installed it, but this was how many years ago? So that column aerator, the town was paying for that hydro bill. So part of our group who all sat down together to put this plan in place with town council, we had 2 Manitoba Hydro members, we had professional plumbing, geothermal fella, electrician. We had everybody who kind of needed to be part of this plan. And through that, because it was done so well and because we really had professionals on our team, town council knew that this was going to be taken care of well, and they agreed to continue paying the hydro as they would have with that column one. So when we put our aeration project in, that column one was taken down. Yeah, because we could, again, yeah, it's aerating, right? It's oxygenating the water, which is why it was installed, but it was not taking care of the algal blooms like what we needed. And this is where the field was just much more effective. So.
Thank you again. That is all the questions for now. That's wonderful. That's, as I say, a very uplifting and upbeat look at selling our projects and selling ourselves in the project. And really appreciate your time, Betty. Thank you.
Well, if anybody has any questions, just give me a shout. Like, seriously, I have no problem sharing ideas. You can see I'm passionate about what we've done and what we're continuing to do. But what I really, really love is, like I said, is that communities help other communities. And that is just key. And that's how we just want to pass it on. The Pelican Lake crew, they were so good with us that we just want to pass that on to other communities as well. And so just know that there's no dollar attached to our volunteering or our helping. It just comes with a good heart and just helping each other. That's all.
You bet. And a special thank you to the folks who submitted the questions tonight as well. Great job.
Yes. Okay. Good night, everybody. Again, like I said, is any questions, certainly feel free to give me a shout.
Well, thank you for a wonderful presentation, Betty. That was just excellent. And I'd like to thank everyone for joining us, and thank Daryl and Dennis for assisting. So once again, good evening, everyone, and thank you all for joining us. All the best to you and your families. And we hope you join us next week. Good night.